Here is my video about my Pennine crossing, which took place on Monday. The plan was to start from the ridge overlooking Mixenden in Illingworth and to make my way across the valley, across the few moors over to the Hebden Bridge valley and up past Widdop Dam, and then after Widdop Dam it was clean sailing along the Pennine, the Trans-Pennine path down towards Burnley, at which point I'd get the train back to Calderdale. It was a beautiful day, the sun was out, it was quite cool when I started, it was only about 2 or 3 degrees, but the visibility was absolutely stunning that you can see from this video. I am overlooking the Mixenden Valley, ready to start my walk. You can see Mixenden Reservoir there. Everything's looking good. I went down into the valley, over towards Hebden Brook. You can see the Hebden there, under the bridge. Next I went round the edge of Mixenden Reservoir. You can see the waters of the reservoir through the trees there, before I started up the big mountain towards the top. Looking around, I said goodbye to Halifax and Mixenden. You can see the Mixenden there and the wider town on the horizon line. There's Wainhouse Tower, before I went the rest of the way to the top of the hill. There's Emley Moor. It's England's second tallest building, only the Shard's taller, believe it or not. And that contrasts nicely with the beautiful bare countryside around here. I'm always struck by the Pennine countryside, how stark it all is, with those tumble down walls and the sheep grazing in the fields. I do like it. The views are spectacular. You can't beat them. And then I went down the other side of the valley, and I was due to cross under those 2 twin reservoirs there. And you can see the other side, there's no sign of that urban townscape at all. It's all just fields and moorland as far as the eye can see. Absolutely stunning. Couldn't have been a better day to go out for that walk. So I went through a few little farmsteads on my way, and what did I see out in the countryside? It's not a rabbit. It's a cat. So then I was out onto the moorland itself. I came across a mountain stream there. It always strikes me with these mountain streams with the peaty soil. The water looks almost like cola froth in there. And you can see when I lift my camera up to the horizon just how empty it all is out here. Absolutely stunning. And I carried on along the road, and next I found this gatehouse type building. It looks like a Victorian folly and people were living in it, so I didn't want to film too close to it, but it was just such an unexpected find, so it was worth a quick video. So next I went past a field of bulls to the other side of the bottom of that valley to find another gatehouse of the same kind of construction. And what did I see next but this massive incline. I don't think that camera does it justice. I've written there killer climb, and it absolutely was. You can hear my breath there at the top, and then the view was stunning. I took a bit of a rest here before I carried on, and this is Midgley Moor now. It's all so stark. Beautiful blue sky. So walking along Midgley Moor was quite interesting. It's all very open, and I came across a couple of these bits. The map had them marked as mine shafts, so I guess at one point there was a mine under all this, believe it or not, and these must have been like ventilation shafts for the mine. There's a few ground nesting birds out here, So it'll be an ideal place for skylarks, I would imagine. So carried on a straight line across Midgley Moor. And you can see on this shot how we're going along, and you can just see the hills beginning to rise there as I crest that ridge and see the next stage of a journey before me, those big high hills going towards Lancashire. So I start down next into the next valley, and I had a look around, and you can see that's the village of Heptonstall right there. So Heptonstall itself's quite high up, and you've got the Hardcastle Crags, well, that is in the valley. The village of Peckett Well is not too far from there as well, but that's the direction I'll be going, making for that pass in the mountains. Well, I also noticed I was directly north of Studley Pike as well. So that's where I went next, down into the village. There's the village of Peckett Well. And in Peckett Well I found a shop that was quite an interesting piece of social history. This is where I went next into the village. The Hebden Bridge Cooperative. It was a really big employer in industry up in this part of the valley, but it collapsed because of one man's corruption and greed, unfortunately. Next I came on this amazing war memorial, for the village of Peckett Well, and I stopped and had a bite to eat here. And you can see it's absolutely amazing view here. I don't think it comes across on the camera, the sheer drop down into the valley beneath this monument with all the trees, but it really was quite something to look at. And next I went down and did that descent into the valley, and when I got there I got a text from my mum and dad to say that they're out on a walk too that day down in Somerset at Glastonbury Tor, and they'd previously been to the place that I was at now, Hardcastle Crags, so I sent them a quick photo to let them know that great minds think alike, we were both having a walk that day. So we carried on up that river, and this is part of the Hardcastle Crags itself. When I filmed, I didn't mean to take as much interest in this bush as it looks like I have done. It was more like the rocks and the view that I was after. And you can see again, even here, I've been, alongside the stream for a lot of this, but it's a long way above the stream at this stage. You're kind of rising and falling next to the river. Here we go. It's a bit closer to the river now, but still a fair way above it. You can see it moving through the trees there as I'm carrying along next to it. Spent a long time in that woods getting to this point, and carrying on up the valley again, and here we are at the shot where I'm next to the river. Again, that water is like really peaty. It looks like cola. It amazes me. And you've got all those little rocks sticking out of it. I didn't stop and build a stone stack anywhere. The next place I filmed was a crossing point in the river, and you can see here there's two rivers joining together, getting more towards that big Widdop reservoir. I found these stones as well. They look like really kind of Stone Age. I could imagine the Flintstones living in a place like this. There's all sorts of wildlife around here as well, all sorts of rabbits and hares and things. They all looked very surprised to see me though. I don't think they're used to too many humans coming out this far. And you can see the drop down into the valley there. So carrying on up, I could see the reservoir in the distance, and crossing the next river crossing. It reminded me of the bridge from Monty Python, he who must cross the bridge of terror, answer me these questions free. The other side you see. I didn't get anyone asking me dodgy questions, but I was a little bit out of breath at this point, as you can hear. I had just been doing an incline. This is a good few hours into the journey. I think this is probably about 3 o'clock by this point, so I've been going for about 6 hours by this time. And then I've got the big incline there, heading up to Widdop Reservoir. next to that, there's this water channel that's coming down, taking water off the moors and guiding it into the reservoir here for drinking water and that. And you can see the stark moorland here, absolutely beautiful. And then I started south on that Pennine bridleway, heading down towards Burnley. The sheep were really tame around here. There was some that moved, but they were right next to me in the grass looking up at me, which I wanted to see. So I headed off down the bridleway and got confused when I came to this sign here, because according to my map, that sign and that crossroad should not have been there. So I got quite confused for a while and got my map out to try and work out what had happened. And then I saw in the distance Studley Pike, and I was actually walking towards Studley Pike from the west heading eastwards. So I'd actually made a mistake here. I'd got my reservoirs mixed up, but if I had gone back to correct myself, that's about an hour out of the way, and it was late enough in the afternoon that I was worried about losing the light if I carried on. So, unfortunately, it was not, although it's a beautiful view, I was not happy to see that Studley Pike that time. And instead, I had to make the walk of shame back into Hebden Bridge. It was a long walk. A long walk. But as the shadows were lengthening, I arrived into Hebden Bridge, where I went across the town and found my way to the railway station. But I didn't need to get on the train because because my wife, Emily, was very good enough to pick me up, and and she took me home. So although it was disappointing not to get all the way across like I'd originally wanted to, I still had an absolutely fantastic time out in the beautiful countryside, in the nice fresh air, even if I did have to make that horrible long walk of shame back into Hebden Bridge. So that's a view of the overall route that I did. It wasn't a Pennine crossing, but next time I'll not make that same mistake. But it's all good fun and games, isn't it? And I had a great time, and that's what it's all about at the end of the day, isn't it?